Easy money turned into hard choices, and a whole decade learned what it means to, well, owe the world. I'm Matt Haskell. I'm a high school history teacher. We're going line by line, lyric by lyric through Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. We're coming to the tail end of the song now. We started with Sally Ride, Heavy Metal Suicide, and now we move on to Foreign Debts. And when Billy Joel sings about foreign debts, he's pointing to the 1980s and the global debt crisis. The story starts with petrodollars and bank loans and cheap credit. Then it flips when the interest rates jump and then growth begins to stall. In the 1970s, oil prices spiked, and the earnings off major oil exporters piled up in Western banks as petrodollar deposits. Those banks needed to lend, and many developing countries needed cash for industry, roads, and imports. Loans flowed to Latin America, Africa, and parts of Eastern Europe on floating rates that felt safe, while U.S. inflation eroded real costs. The bill came due when policy changed. To crush inflation, the U.S. Federal Reserve pushed interest rates sharply higher in 1979 all the way through 1982. Floating rate loans reset upward, recession cut export demand, and the price of basic goods jumped. Debt services that seemed manageable, well, they turned into a trap. The breaking point was Mexico in 1982. The government announced it could not meet payments. Panic spread to Brazil, Argentina, and others. Banks began to pull back. New loans dried up. Countries entered talks with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and then also creditor banks, trading emergency financing for reforms that often included devaluation, subsidy cuts, tax changes, and privatization. For many citizens, the austerity meant layoffs and wage freezes, and also higher prices. The phrase lost decade took hold in Latin America, and parts of sub-Saharan Africa carried heavy debt through a terrible drought and then commodity slumps. Not all debts were the same. Some governments had borrowed for projects with real returns. Others had financed consumption, prestige projects, and also corrupt networks. Commodity exporters were hit hard when prices fell. Importers were squeezed by dollars they had to earn abroad. Protest movements began to grow. Politics began to shift. Democracies and dictatorships alike saw cabinets fall over budgets and bread. So governments continued to change. By the late 1980s, the strategy moved from endless rescheduling to actual reduction. The Brady Plan in 1989 offered banks a swap into new bonds with lower principal or lower interest, backed in part by the U.S. Treasury securities. That made the numbers add up and reopened access to capital markets for some countries. The 1990s brought all new risks, but the worst of the 1980s debt overhang began to ease where reforms stuck and then growth returned. Why are we sitting here with this lyric? Well, because foreign debts became a nightly headline in the 1980s. It explains why news anchors talked about IMF packages, bond swaps, and structural adjustments, and why ordinary people felt global finance in the price of food and the size of their paychecks. When we tie it back to the song, it all compresses petrodollars, rate hikes, defaults, and austerity. And then all those things chain together that turned bank ledgers into street protests. The reason why it matters, well, this particular chapter shows how interest rates, exchange rates, and growth can decide lives. It is also a lesson in timing and risk. Borrow in the wrong currency, float the rate, and one central bank decision far away can rewrite your budget. If you enjoyed this episode, I've got a few more to go, maybe 6 or 7 as we start wrapping up the song here. And we want to make sure we get this one finished up. So we've moved on from, Sally Ride, Heavy Metal Suicide, Foreign Debts, and we're going to keep down this kind of bleak track here with Homeless Vets. Thanks for watching.